I'll tell you where the song came from in a minute, in a couple of minutes. I'm Alexander Garrett, and welcome inside to another Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett. It is actually ended up a beautiful Friday day. Hope your weekend starts off well. I hope if you're a Met fan, a Islander fan, you are elated that they just won Game 1 of their playoffs. And if you are a Net fan, well, you got the Nets tomorrow. But I have used this platform to promote what people would call a dark era in the United States, to promote the Trump presidency, because I think there are certain things he does that works. But I find that the more interesting stuff to talk about is stuff I see, the stuff I go through, the stuff I live through on the daily, on this podcast. And so that's what I'm working on, to bring light into the world, to bring some good news into the world. Not necessarily my good news, but in general, good news. But to bring light into the world, I do think we have to smack down those that speak so nonchalantly about, well, 9/11. You know, that was a dark place. That was a dark time for not only this city, but for this world. And it's culminated in a video by Trump and the Trump team, where Ilhan Omar is getting handed what she asked for, which was heavy criticism. She said, I don't really want to play it because it's so bad. She said some people did something. To completely write it off and say someone did something is so off base and actually un-American. Now, secondly, when she doubled down, she said, you know, she quoted George Bush, who used the words people. She quoted him. She said verbatim what Bush had said as he willed us through 9/11's tragedy. He got us through that dark era in so many ways. But here's what Ilhan Omar had said today. She said, and I guess she woke up and said this, quote, the people who knocked down these buildings will hear all of us soon. President George W. Bush. She then asks, was Bush downplaying the terrorist attack? I mean, how asinine, how idiotic is that? It's brought back the pain and the tragedy and the horror of that day. So I have advice for anybody who wants to bring it up in any political way, to just let that day be a wound, a reminder that we as a country are stronger together, and that writing it off doesn't bring us anywhere close together. Anywhere close together. But neither does running around as a presidential campaign like Rudy did, saying, oh, I was America's mayor in 9/11. It didn't help him that much. Did not help him that much. So from these two very glaring moments, trying to, I feel, capitalize on on that tragedy. Don't try and capitalize on it. Let it live and let it be what it was, which was a horrible, horrible day for America. And let's move on to continue to fund those 9/11 victims health issues. Let's move on to continue to fight the war on terror together, not divided. To write off evil is not the way to go about it. To say, oh, look how I got you through the evil, is also not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is to let it be, continue to honor those who did perish in those tragic terror attacks, and continue to honor the first responders that rushed the scene, that are now suffering and that did suffer, trying to save many American lives. That is what I hope could be the breakthrough here, is that we stop using 9/11 as a way to gain a political point, as a way to say, oh, woe is me. When in fact, that moment ended up, and that tragedy ended up being such a sacred time in our city. Clergy were out. People were bonding together. People were loving each other just a lot more than they were maybe before. And the defense of these comments is crazy by Omar. And I really hope that the wounds that have been opened up by this find a natural suture, find a stoppage, and we can just continue to fight for the America we deserve to live in, not the America that I think most of the left wants us to live in, which is, let's decimate 9/11's meaning. Let's desecrate what is going on. And I mean left as in Ocasio-Cortez left, Tlaib left. Not your average everyday American left. Everyday American liberal. The everyday American liberal would not speak like this. I believe that to be true. So these are not everyday American liberals. These are people that have kind of started to hijack the Democratic Party, and it's sad that the three faces are now them. To be quite honest with you, because they're talking way out from what the normal American would talk like. The normal kitchen table, the normal regular guy at the diner type of person would talk like. This speech is not normal by any stretch of the imagination. It's really not. And it's a shame that it now sits in Congress. That's the heartfelt tragedy for me. That these hearts of discontent, of revelry, rebellion against the sacred, against the tragic of that day, are sitting in our Congress. I'm very saddened by that. I don't know how it happened, but in a blink of an eye, it happened. And I don't know if people can overcome this type of divide. Because this one, words are hurting people. Slashing them at the core. Slashing the families of the victims of 9/11. Slashing the families of the first responders of 9/11 at the core. And no one should stand for it. No one should stand for it. Especially not in New York. Especially not in New York. You know, de Blasio actually highlighted that there was a firefighter who happened to, as this was all going on, as these Omar comments have been happening, de Blasio highlighted a firefighter who was making his last tour today. The firefighter is James McGlynn, working his last tour after 33 years with the FDNY. On 9/11, he was trapped in Stairwell B as the North Tower collapsed around him, and members from Engine 16, Battalion 11, Ladder 6, Engine 39, Battalion 2, PAPD, Lieutenant David Lim, Port Authority PD, and 3 civilians. He's retiring. He is someone we should be honoring. Instead, Omar's just taken the air out of his achievements and put the spotlight on her. And it's not right. And tonight, I hope that light can be shown on James McGlynn, who worked his last tour today after 33 years with the FDNY. Don't shine your anger and your light on what Omar said. Shine a light on the goodness of James McGlynn, that he was able to survive 9/11 and work another, 18 years. Another 18 years. I mean, God bless him. But let's stop shining the light and the negative on the negativity of the commentary by 3 people in Congress and start thinking about the on-the-ground stories, literally on the ground, as the tower was collapsing. Here he is, 18 years later, 33 years later, retiring with a great career. James McGlynn, congratulations on 33 years. Your day should be today. The light should shine on you if we're going to talk about 9/11 and the people around 9/11. Not a freshman congressman from Minnesota who minimized this. Yes, it's angering. Yes, it's horrible. Yes, it's horrifying to see it written off so nonchalantly. But here we have a story of a firefighter after 33 years finally retiring today. And I hope good health. But he was there in 9/11. And that is the light that should be shown today. Not the heartlessness of Ilhan Omar, but the heartful and the faithfulness of James McGlynn to this city. I bet you wouldn't hear anywhere else that James McGlynn is working his last tour. You'll only hear about Ilhan and what had she said. But here you're going to hear the stories that shine light into the world today. This story shines light. He survived 9/11. He pushed through and helped people survive 9/11 as well. He was there, right there. And now, 18 years later, he is retiring after 33 years of service to this city. Thank you, James McGlynn, for being that bright light in an otherwise dark controversy about a day that should never be touched on for political gain or for political commentary. The people talking like this weren't stuck at a school with oxygen tanks and trachs for hours as this transportation had to be figured out. The people talking like this weren't trapped in their own city after this terror happened. The people talking like this weren't there. Okay? So what right do they have to talk about this in such a way? They don't. And I pray to God that He talks life, talks positivity into the 3 congresswomen that are there now. I pray to God that He helps them straighten their hearts out. Because the everyday American liberal is not talking like this. The everyday American conservative is also not singling every Muslim out. We just want terrorists and terrorism to be done as a country. We want our 9/11 victims to be supported by our government. We want our 9/11 memorial to be just that, a memory of the lives lost that day by terrorists, not people. Ilhan Omar and anyone who's defending her commentary from the back in March. So thank you again, Mr. McGlynn, for your dedicated service to this country. All right, there's other stuff to talk about. Donald Trump actually did put out that 9/11 video to remember those lives lost. Did do something a little uncharacteristic, but I kind of get where he's coming from.
If they don't agree, we might as well do what they always say they want. We'll bring the illegal, really you call them the illegals. I call them the illegals. They came across the border illegally. We'll bring them to sanctuary city areas and let that particular area take care of it, whether it's a state or whatever it might be. California certainly is always saying, oh, we want more people, and they want more people in their sanctuary cities. Well, we'll give them more people. We can give them a lot. We can give them an unlimited supply. And let's see if they're so happy. They say we have open arms. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms. The alternative is to change the laws, and we can do it very, very quickly, very easily. Okay?
Well, we'll see what happens now, but he's laying the gauntlet down. You want these illegals, some of them very violent illegals, not all, some? Take them. See what happens in your city. But I have an issue with this because Mayor de Blasio claims that we are a sanctuary city. He wants us to be a sanctuary city. He is protecting illegal immigrants from ICE, even if they had a very bad past. Even if they have a very bad past. So I'm nervous about this plan. I get it. It's a troll job. It's a, here, they want it, we'll just give it to them now. See how they like it type of thing. But we're at a time now where we can't afford to do that. Especially when there are apprehensions through the roof. We do not have time to do it. We just do not. Okay? We just do not. Because if these apprehensions are so high up and there are real spikes, then I'll tell you what. That means there might be some bad guys coming in with the ones that want to do good in this country. That means in these sanctuary cities now, we might have violent illegals on top of every other concern that we could have in cities today. And that should worry people. This should not be a move that's applauded. It should be questioned. It should be examined. It should be like, why is he doing this? Now, Democrats are upset that the immigrants are being used as political pawns, but don't you want them in your cities? Wasn't that the whole point? Isn't that why a wall needs to be built? Because you want them here? And we want them out. The illegals that are dangerous. The illegals that won't seek asylum. I'm very confused how every time Trump takes a position, the left has to disagree when it's their position to begin with. He just uses their position as leverage, which I think is an interesting strategy. But this time around, it's a dangerous strategy. Because if he really does release all these illegal immigrants into sanctuary cities, who knows where that goes, what that can lead to? Who knows? And again, I pray to God that this move is what the president is looked at from the man upstairs and blessed by the man upstairs, or if it's not, maybe he touches the president's heart and he fixes it. Because his will be shown overall at the end of the day. I truly believe that. So we shall see where that goes, but I'm not a big fan of this proposal. There was some good news, though. Finally, images from the black hole emerged this week, which is pretty cool. Because, we always saw it in our textbooks, right? We always saw the black hole in our textbooks. And I always thought that was the real thing, but it wasn't. It was not. Now we see the real thing. And the biggest takeaway from all this is that it adds to Einstein's theory of relativity. It helps us realize that, yes, gravity is real. And it is a breakthrough for science. Which, in a day where people think that science, that the president wants science to stop and all this stuff. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's going to continue funding NASA. He's even creating a space force. I mean, there are spatial activities going on, and this was just one big thing to come out of research. So it's very exciting. And then you look at the story, which makes you wonder, well, what can we do about the melting glaciers? Because there's nuclear fallout about to happen with the glaciers, and that's dangerous. That's not good. That's not healthy. We don't want any nuclear waste to be anywhere. But now it's sort of trickled into the climate change debate because these glaciers are melting and we don't know what's going to happen next. But we do know there's nuclear fallout from it. And that has to be corrected as soon as possible. But with with McGlynn of the FDNY, with the black hole being finally a light shown on it, I believe, and by the way, with this movie Breakthrough, which you have to see, saw a private screening of it last night with some listeners of the radio station I produce. That great movie, tearjerker. And I found some parallels, which you can find out on Instagram at AlexGNNYC, AlexGNNYC. About, you'll have to find out, but Breakthrough about a boy named John Smith who fell through the ice, and God had his back, and his lungs and his body. You'll find out more in theaters April 17th. That's where the song Colorful by Jukebox Ghost comes from. Makes you have hope. Stories are out there that makes you have hope. Not everything is bad and sad and end of the worldish. There's some hope. And I really, really hope that for a living, get it, high hopes for a living, I'll be able to tell you it on the daily soon enough. I'm Alexander Garrett. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I do really have high hopes for a living.